Hi, I'm Susan and welcome to Susan Standley Stitch in Time, where we talk about cross-stitch, quilting, textiles, sewing notions and methods from the past, and I share my projects with you. This channel has been really exciting lately. I am just having a blast, and I know so many of you are as well. We have been looking at the 1840s and at early work baskets and early sewing methods, and we have also been exploring how things were done in the 1840s as far as making a doll quilt and how a child would have learned that. And if you're not aware of what's been going on, I hope you will go back a few episodes and watch the video where I introduce Mary, and then you'll know exactly what this project is all about. On today's episode, we're going to look at an update on Mary, and I'm going to talk about the tutorials and the stitched stories and some of your comments. I'm going to share my one WIP that I've had a little bit of time to put some stitches in, a possible start that I'm considering. I want to talk to you about another work basket item that you will want to learn about and make a decision about whether or not you're going to use, which is the thimble. I would give you a little bit of the history and a little bit of my knowledge and suggestions on how to pick one that's right for you. And so let's get going. Before I dive in, I want to talk to you a little bit about comments and messages that you leave for me, and thank you beyond the bottom of my heart for all of the fantastic comments. For those of you who are new to this channel, please take a look at some of the great dialogue and interaction that goes on. We have a lovely little community here. Floss Tube is an amazing community at large. But this is kind of a new little microcosm where we're talking about some of these exciting early sewing methods, and I hope you will avail yourself to looking at some of those comments and then become a part of this. This undertaking that I've been working on is open to everyone. It's open to people who are watching. It's open to people who are using their own methods, contemporary materials, modern tools. It's open to people who are taking their very first stitches. It's open to people who've been stitching for years. So it's just really fun to gain a perspective from all those different angles and work through the process together. If you have an urgent message for me, please send it to my website or my email, and I will link those two below. If you are watching this on the TV, you'll have to go to another device so you can look at the description box below where all this information is written out. I'll try to scroll it across the bottom as well. So my website is www.susanstanleystitchintime.com, and my email is smsquilter@comcast.net. That's the best way to get in touch with me right away. I want to apologize to those of you whose comments may have been eaten up in the ether of the internet. I have periodically usually comments on my Instagram or on my videos come right to my email, and I can read them immediately. Many times I'll go into the comments and see that there are several comments on my YouTube that I haven't even been notified of, and I haven't answered. I'm not ignoring you, I promise. And very rarely, but recently, I've had comments come to me that I am not able to respond to because when I reply, there's not a connection with our devices or something. I really don't understand why I can't reply to you. Perhaps someone out there knows what the hang-up is, but I apologize. I want to communicate and reply to everyone. So please forgive me if that's happened, and I just want to let you know why, at least from all I know. about how this works. Why? So let's take a look at Mary 1840, the doll quilt experience. The kit. The first pre-ordered, back-ordered kits have been shipped, and I shared that on Instagram a few days ago. I'm busy working on the next set, and there is so much enthusiasm and excitement. It motivates me even more to get these kits put together. For those, like I said, for those of you who are new to my channel, welcome. And all of the details about this project are in the video called Unboxing. And it will show you what is in the kit and give you an idea of what we're after. This kit is a handmade, hand-finished specialty kit. And a lot of care has gone into the development of each item and the creation of the kit in entirety. And I'm making sure that each kit contains every detail and element. I'm quality control over here, so I'm making sure it's just as beautiful as the last one or the one that's going out next. And I just appreciate your patience. I know many of you are just anxious as can be to get started, and I want to reassure you that the kits are coming. The video tutorials have started. We've got video tutorial 1, and maybe by the time that this video is released, number 2 will have been released. Tutorial number 2 will have been released. We have the stitched stories component that you can also watch while you're waiting. So thank you for your enthusiasm again. I'm so delighted. But I am working through the order list, and they'll get to you. And the videos will never go away. They're going to be on my channel indefinitely. They're free to this community for you to enjoy and learn from. And so I am also so thrilled that many of you have started sharing your first stitches stories. Now, some of those have come to me privately, but many of you are sharing them on Instagram and in the comments at the bottom of these videos, and they're just delightful. And I hope, again, you will take advantage of reading those comments and just enjoying the vast, diverse perspective we all come to this common place from. We all come here from so many different backgrounds and experiences, and what brought us to stitching and the love of needle arts. It's just fascinating. Like I said before, everyone's welcome in this experience, whether you're watching, participating. You're participating if you're watching. If you're stitching, you're participating. So you're all welcome here. I'm so glad, I'm so pleased you're here. The hashtag that I've set up to use, I think I've finally got that all cleaned up and figured out, and I will scroll that here below, or it will be in the description box. Hopefully I can do both. It is hashtag #first_stitches. And that is where I would love you to share your kit, whether it's a purchased kit or your own created kit. I'd love you to share your progress. I'd love you to share your experiences, all of them, because it will help the people who are experiencing some fear and uncomfortable feelings of discomfort because this is new. It will help them feel a little more confident to dive in and just try. We put so much pressure on ourselves as adults to know something already, and we don't. We're all learners, and when you try a new skill, it takes practice. It takes being brave. It takes being kind to yourself. It takes stepping out of your comfort zone and just trying. And there's no grade for this. You are, and we are oftentimes our own worst critics. So I am going to be sharing my first stitches story soon. I think I will share mine on Instagram, but I also think I will just highlight it a tiny bit on a future Floss Tube, because I realize there are people watching who don't follow Instagram and may not be able to see that. So if I get permission from some of you, as you start to share your stories, I would like to share those on my channel as well, because there are people, like I said, who don't have that opportunity. The tutorials. Remember, these tutorials were designed as an experience in 1840s stitching. Okay, so we were going to take a look back at how things were done in 1840s. If you have stitched currently and used contemporary materials, you will notice immediately that the tools are much different than what we have today. And you might be thinking, wow, the precision is challenging. It is. And this is not a precision piecing class. This is an experience with what was used and available for young children learning to stitch in 1840. Now, can you learn from this today? Absolutely. Will I eventually move into more contemporary methods? Of course. I think this is a wonderful way to start, and I wish this is how I had started. I wish I had been given a class like this when I started my sewing journey. This is an opportunity. It's not fast. This is not a speedy technique. This is an opportunity to slow down and take a breath, to become mindful, to savor each stitch, to pour all your feelings of the day into each stitch. This is a way that stitching was done before the Industrial Revolution, before sewing machines were available in every home or most homes. There were, it's a different time. And we're kind of going back, we're pulling back the curtain, like I've said, and we're going into another human experience. So I want you to join me, no matter how you're approaching this. If you want to sew this on the machine, you go. If you don't want to sew it at all, I want you to be here too, because I think you will gain, just like little Mary gained so much knowledge just from being around other stitchers, just from being in the same room and listening to their conversation, and just from observing little things that she probably wasn't even conscious, but she observed and learned and absorbed. So you will gain so much, I think, just from being here on that level as well. You choose whatever experience works best for you. Now, I think the way these videos that I'm sharing with you work the best, and I want to strongly encourage you, gently but strongly encourage you, to watch these videos that I'm offering with this in mind. The Floss Tube videos will offer updates, they will offer textile information, they will give you some information on notions and tools, and of course I'll share my WIPS. Right now there aren't a lot, to be quite honest. I'm packaging boxes, and that's just fine. I'm happy to do that. But I do have WIPS that I'm excited to get back to. That's what Floss Tube is all about. The tutorials are going to address the how of 1840s sewing, how it was done, and I'm taking you through step by step. I'm also showing you, I'm adding an addendum, I have an addendum at the end of the video that is if you've never, okay? And it's techniques to help someone who has never done a stitch, a running stitch in fabric, a patchwork, making a patchwork 2-patch, making 4-patch, making a block. Okay, so there'll be that element involved. That is the how. And then I have a third element to this 3-part series, which is the stitched stories. Now that's just a fun thing to turn on while you're sewing. You don't have to look up. I'm not getting a ton of sewing done during those because I'm talking. But I am sewing. I'm doing a bit of sewing, and I have all my materials out, and I might mention, you know, a little bit of what I'm doing. That might come in. But the focus of the stitched stories is Mary's life and the why. The why of the items in the kit, the why of life in general in 1840 in St. Louis, Missouri, and what was going on. So I hope that clarifies things, or just gives you a little bit of a reason to kind of look at these as a full package, and you don't have to watch them all. You don't have to watch them all at the same time. You do what works for you. But if you do avail yourself to those three things together, I think you will gain a broader, more complete experience. These videos are like me sitting in the room with you as you work through the process of stitching, and I want you to think of these tutorials as you would a recipe. So if you're starting a new, maybe challenging recipe for the first time, you would read it through. So you would watch the tutorial in completion. No expectations, just watch. Watch, absorb, and listen. All right? Maybe you would watch it twice. Just like a recipe, you have to read it twice. Okay, I'm not really sure what they mean here. Oh, okay. You watch it again. It's going to become a little more familiar. And oh, now I understand. Then you'll gather your ingredients or your supplies. Okay, so you haven't even taken a stitch yet. You've done lots of watching, and it's okay, because this is slowing down. It's learning a new skill. It's absorbing the terminology and the details of this process. You will probably then watch the video yet again. And you will work through it with your materials prepared in hand until there is a step that you want to do. And then you can pause the video and try it. And it's just like me sitting next to you saying, yes, that's right, you've got this. Or you say, I don't know. You rewind it. You watch it again. You try it again. Oh, that's what she means. It takes time to work through these tutorials. This is a slow process, just like learning anything. You want to rewind the video until you understand what's happening. Keep watching it, keep trying it, keep practicing. Practice is where you will become more comfortable with these techniques if they're new to you, and you will feel confident about moving forward. I do not at all recommend that you watch the video one time, turn it off, and run to your sewing room and start. I don't recommend that at all. I think unless you already know this technique and have done it, that's probably not the best way for learning. So please be kind to yourself. I want to read a lovely message. I've had so many, and over the course of time, I hope to share several of them with you. But this message was left to me on Instagram, and it says, I love the Mary story, and this is just precious. I started on the 2 patches and thought this is going to be an easy experience, being that I'm an experienced quilter. Not so. Just holding the fabric to crease it had me struggling. Served me right for thinking I would have it completed in no time. That's an honest assessment, and I think we all can relate to that. Be kind to yourself. Like I said, this is maybe a new skill, and it takes practice. And if you're willing to slow down and really work at this, and look through the videos, pause them, try it, rewind, try it again, move forward, you will be successful. I have tailored these tutorials so that you can work through them at your own pace and as many times as you need to watch them to gain confidence and success. Now, the Bristol paper in the kit is what was used for children learning to stitch in 1840. If you did not purchase the kit, I highly recommend that you get some Bristol paper. because I think you will have the best experience. You can create from what you have in your home, but I think the Bristol paper is going to give you a better experience. If you're having trouble with those folded lines, because that is kind of a different concept. It's not something that we're used to. We're also dealing with this century's fabric. We're not dealing with 1840s fabric, and I will talk more about what fabric was like in 1840. It was different than the fabric today. It had a different feel, different texture, a different weave. If you're having trouble, here's 3 suggestions. You can draw the line from corner to corner of your Bristol paper square. Remember, we're not stitching from the cut edge in these tutorials. We're stitching from the corner of the Bristol paper to the corner of the Bristol paper across the top and stopping. And if you watch the tutorial, that will make sense if you don't know what I'm talking about. You can also, and then you would pin it through that drawn line. You can use a pencil. You can also crease the line using your Bristol paper on the front piece of fabric and the back piece of fabric. So you're going to fold it over towards you, and then fold it over the Bristol paper behind you. And if you watch the tutorial, that will also make sense. If you're still having trouble and the fabric you're using is perhaps quite a loose weave, you might likely consider starching your pieces, letting them dry almost to completion. When they're just about dry, pressing them, and they will be like a floppy piece of paper, and they will crease much more easily. Now, why did I not tell you that in the tutorial? Mary, that was not an 1840s experience. Some of the fabric might have been starched, some of it might have been washed and washed and washed and washed. Okay, so I hope that helps. If you have any more concerns or questions or anything comes up, let me know. I want to address all of these things as we go through the process together, and that's why I recommend you watch all 3 options of videos that I have offered to you. The Curious Crafters, if you don't know these 2 ladies, you really need to. The Curious Crafters are delightful sister team. They are floss tubers, and they are sisters, and they love to create, and they're always going a little deeper and exploring and asking questions. And they have joined this Mary 1840 doll quilt experience. And I really encourage you to go over and watch their most recent episode. I will link it below. They're just delightful. They're lovely. They're lovely to watch anyway. They do a variety of projects, and they're always asking questions and taking it to another level, exploring. They've asked some excellent questions about why I chose what I chose for the kit, why I chose certain elements. They're specifically asking me about why is tin a part of the template, why did I wax the needle after it was threaded, and I'm going to cover those in my Stitched Story episodes, the answers to those. They're excellent questions, and please keep those coming as well. When I find that the answer to your question fits in a Stitched Story, then I will answer it there. If it fits better in a Floss Tube, I'll answer it here. So anyway, hop on over and meet Carolyn and Anna. They're just delightful. I do want to read you another lovely comment I received from a woman who was a previous shop owner. And she gave me permission to read this. And I hope that you'll listen to this in the intent that it was given, and absorb it for yourself as far as being kind to yourself. Her name is Mary Ellen McInnes, and thank you, Mary Ellen, so much for this. She writes, "Excellent tutorial. I love the grace that you have given everyone. I think the hardest part of learning a new skill is that we as individuals are hard on ourselves and compete with those who have been doing that skill for a long time. It's very true. One thing we all need to remember when we start learning a new skill is not to compare ourselves with the experienced. Remember, we've not seen their first attempt at the skill. Surprisingly, they too had to start somewhere. Whatever mistakes or lack of perfection one is seeing in their new try are the same that the now experienced all had. Please remember that. Practice is what makes it look good. Please save your first attempts so later you can look back and see your progress. I want to highlight that. Please save your first attempts so later you can look back and see your progress. If you stick with it, you will be amazed. And also remember, in the case of piecing for a quilt, those stitches that you may not be feeling the love for will never be seen, as it will be buried inside the completed quilt. There are a ton of secrets hidden in there. And I could talk for hours about the secrets hidden in quilts, and I will over the course of our time together. I will share, but that was beautifully written and really, really just such an encouragement to everyone who's trying this this new experience. So I hope you will take that to heart and give yourself grace as we move through. I have been able to take a few stitches in my Hannah Lancaster whip. Hannah Lancaster, I've spoken about her several times on other videos. I love her, and I do hope to get back to her a little bit more. I am using a Versoix Soie d'Alger and 38 count Fuller's Teasel. Here's the threads. And Hannah, last time Hannah had got a dress, so she has her dress fully finished. Now she has a border. And let me see if I can make this a little bit easier to see. So thanks to Carol of Saltbox Stitching, I went all the way around and stitched the border so I had good guide points, and I can now go in to the top and work on some of the lettering. If I want to, I can work from the side. I can continue on the bottom, and knowing me, I will probably start dancing around this because I know if I save the words at the top till the very end, I'm not going to be happy with myself. So I took a page from Carol, and I'm really pleased I did. It's an odd border. It's got different lozenge shapes in each corner, but it matched up amazingly, and that's always a good day. Anyway, just loving this stitch. Very happy with the choice of combination of threads and linen, and so that's what I worked on. Not too much, but believe me, I have plans. The next thing, I am waiting on the wool for Jane Parsons, 1841 from the Wishing Thorn. Beautiful, beautiful pictorial marking style sampler. I think this would have been maybe a second stitch for a young girl. And I decided last time I want to use the Du Aubusson wool. And I wanted to make sure I clarified a few things. I did audition this color, and I don't even know if this color is in the kit because I have ordered the wool from the Wishing Thorn, and I did receive a notification that it's on its way, so I'm super excited about that. This was so tactily pleasant to stitch. The resistance against the linen, and just the way it puffs out, the wool puffs out in the linen. It was wonderful. And the two things I auditioned were Riverstone 30 count and Swiss Cocoa, which is a legacy linen. Once I get the colors, I'll be able to decide which color I want to use. I definitely know I'm using one of these because 30 count is the match for this wool. I know wool. So I told my sister about this, and my sister said, "Oh, how can you stand it?" And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Isn't it itchy?" I said, "Not at all. There is not one element of discomfort for me." Now, I don't have a lanolin or wool allergy at all, but this is as soft as you can imagine, and there's not, we've all had the sweater from grandma growing up that was really coarse wool, at least I did, and you just die because you're just itching and sweating and uncomfortable. That was not so with this at all. It was, it's just delightful to work with. So next time I hope I have that to show you because it's on its way. It should be here. And then as I was on the Wishing Thorns website, I found another option. Now, if you order from the Wishing Thorn, you get options for freebies. And so there was a freebie on there that I said, oh yeah, that's definitely something I need to stitch. Now, this freebie is an element from her Eliza Smyth chart, which is an 1841 chart. Now, this is just a copy, a picture, and you'd have to go on her website to get a better view of this, but this is what the entire sampler looks like. The freebie is one element from the sampler, which is this darling little vase. Let's see, if I move forward too much, I get out of my lighting here. So it's this little vase. And why was I so drawn to the vase? Well, of course, last time I talked about vases and urns and why Mary's little scrap bag has a fabric with an urn on it. And we talked about John Hewson. Look at my last episode if you want more information on that. And I saw this freebie and I said, well, I don't know if, and I did receive permission to show this to you. This is the chart, and I would recommend going on her site to look at all her beautiful charts and the free options. But so this is Eliza Smyth. Now this is where I kind of have to make a decision, and I would like to honor the original stitcher, but I also think this is so perfect for Mary. And so possibly, I think maybe I'm leaning towards stitching the vase and the urn with the flowers, and then putting Mary 1840. Of course, you can see here it says ES 1840. So I'm going to have to figure out how to work. I'll just have to redraft that and maybe put Mary on one side and 1840 on the other, and make this into perhaps a needle book or a pincushion or something, because Mary's becoming a very real person, even though she's a fictional character. I just pulled from my stash a Verissois that I had. The colors are not exactly like the original. I want to use some real cherry red. I'm going to throw in some pinks, some taupey browns, and then I want to make the urn kind of a tealy green combination with some of this kind of bluey brown. So I hope I can get some stitching in so I can show you what it looks like. We'll see. I am using a remnant from a Fuller's Teasel from Hannah Lancaster, so I wanted to use what I had on hand so I could get started. So that's a potential new start, eventually a WIP. We'll see, I hope. I hope I can get some stitching in, but I will. I really, I am very motivated to get your orders out to you, and I know how I imagine it's hard to watch a tutorial knowing you have the kit coming and you can't stitch in it yet. So The next thing I want to talk to you about is something that is an essential for your work basket, and that is the thimble. I want to talk to you a tiny bit about the history of the thimble. There's so much I could go into, but a brief overview of the history of the thimble. It was a work basket necessity, and everyone had one. And stitchers learned to stitch at a very young age, and they were using a thimble. So as far as the background on history, they are traditionally worn on your middle finger, on your dominant hand, or your thumb. Thus, the initial name for a thimble was a thumb bell, and then that softened over time, and we called it a thimble. They have been discovered in the ruins of Pompeii. They date back, I don't know, that's the earliest one I'm aware of. I know I would love to do a lot more reading and digging. There's a lot more I could share with you, and I hope to over time, but they have been around forever in many, many forms and facets, because they've been made of mother of pearl, they've been made from nut shells, leather, rubber, glass, bone, ceramic, horn, silver, and tin, and you name it. We have rubber thimbles now. So the dimples in a thimble, if you ever pick up a thimble, especially one that has been used before, and just relish, if it looks like it's been used, the time a person spent with that thimble, and imagine what that thimble could tell you based on the conversations that were going on during the use and the emotions that were being poured out as the stitching was done. I just find these little tools such treasures. And so the dimples were punctured in by hand prior to the Industrial Revolution, of course. And in the 19th century, thimbles began to be formed out of silver, and they were soft, and over time the needle eye would puncture through the silver, which I can only imagine on that day how painful that was, and also disappointing, until Charles Horner came up with what is called now a Dorcas thimble, which is a thimble made of a steel core and covered with silver. So, and children as young as 3 years old began using a thimble. And I will talk to you more about thimbles in Stitched Stories number 2, because there is so much to say about the history and then also the use. I just want to show you this little tray I have of teeny tiny thimbles for children. I could not, even if I tried as hard as I tried, there is no way I could put that tiny thimble on my finger. I can barely get it onto my pinky, but let me show that to you. So here's the tray. They're just the sweetest, dearest little things, and I have some that are made of tin and brass. None of these are silver. They were all probably just utility thimbles, possibly for a school, for children learning. Anyway, they're just the dearest little things. Let's see if I can. And I only imagine the teeny tiny little hands that used them, and it's just, makes me feel sentimental. So as far as you using a thimble and how to choose a thimble, I did not, I know starting out, a thimble is like wearing a new ring or piece of jewelry. It's not always comfortable. It's It takes a learning, and eventually once you find one that fits you well and that is comfortable to wear and use, you will find yourself cooking dinner and your thimble is still on. And believe me, I've done that many times. The thimble it's an extension of your hand, and it helps you use the needle on the same side, on the top side of the fabric. Now, in the first tutorial, I was showing people how to poke the needle in from the top and then poke it from the back. But we want to move towards a sewing method where you're gliding the needle across the top of the fabric. And that's what the thimble helps you do. And it will help you push the needle through with less effort on the part of your fingers and your hand, less strain on your hand. It becomes, once it really clicks, you won't want to stitch without it. So I will cover this in more detail on Stitch Stories, and I'm thinking about doing a short tutorial on choosing and using a thimble, your first thimble. Now, the challenge with thimbles is they are very personal, and like I said, it is like putting on a ring, and it's almost like you need to be fitted. And you can go to a store, and believe me, I have tried almost every thimble on the market in packaging. Sometimes they give you a size guide, sometimes you just have to guess and buy it and see. I'm going to give you a look at some options that are available out there so that you can start to explore and find the thimble that works best for you. In order to advance and really become faster with hand sewing, more precise, you really do need to become well versed and very comfortable with wearing and using a thimble whenever you're stitching. It's not comfortable at first. It's almost like wearing a helmet when you're riding a bike, but eventually you love it and you ignore the discomfort because it's not uncomfortable anymore. It's a part of you. Okay, you need to push past the discomfort, and remember, it's just like learning a new skill, and keep practicing using a thimble, and you're going to one day thank me for encouraging you in this direction, even though initially you might be saying, oh, no way, Susan, I'm not wearing a thimble. All right, let me show you some options that are available today and talk you through how to make a choice and what I would recommend for you if you don't have a thimble that you like, what I suggest. Okay, one of the options available to you is a leather thimble, and they're homemade leather thimbles. There are long leather thimbles if you feel like you're going to stab any part of your finger below the top knuckle. Your goal is to find a place where you have strength in your finger, and it's the same place that your muscle memory, that your needle, that you go back to every time you push through a stitch. Leather thimbles are great. However, if they don't have a metal disc inside, you will end up possibly pushing the needle through the leather and stabbing yourself, and that's not a pleasant experience. So I haven't fallen in love with leather thimbles. That doesn't mean you won't. So you need to try them for yourself. There are options on all thimbles for a fingernail slit. So if you are somebody with long nails, and I will show this in more detail on the Stitched Stories or the tutorial. I haven't decided yet, but that's an option as well. So leather thimbles, you can warm them up, kind of conform them to your hand. You oftentimes can rub your finger with some beeswax before you put the thimble on. That gives it a little friction and keeps it on your finger. You want to just walk around with the thimble on your finger and kind of gently dangle it. You don't want it super tight, but you don't want it loose and falling off. So if you can do this, gently dangle it and wear it, it's probably the right fit. So there's a leather thimble option. There are also metal thimble options. Now this one is made for somebody with long fingernails, and so the fingernail comes out the top, and I'll talk about this more later. But metal options are out there. Some are open, some are closed top, and they're designed so that if you are pushing from any place on this thimble, you're going to hit one of those little dimples. Your needle eye will rest in there and offer you a nice secure place to push the needle, push it on through. There is also a very affordable option, but challenging for me, which is this rubber with a metal top thimble. This only allows you to stitch from the top of your finger, and part of this process is learning where you're going to push from. And then there's the tailor's thimble, and a tailor's thimble looks like this. A tailor's thimble is worn on your finger, and you push from the side. This thimble, you would be pushing from the top. And if this isn't clear and you're not getting a good visual, be rest assured I'm going to do a more up close and personal look at thimbles. I want to give you just an idea of where I'm going. So if you're pushing from the top of your finger, that's one option. But I find most people push from the side or from right in the finger pad. So I want to recommend to you, because I don't want you to go out and spend a bunch of money buying a bunch of thimbles. I want you to get used to using a thimble, and I want to help you identify where on your finger you are pushing your needle. I want to recommend these thimble pads, and I'm going to put them on my website. They are really comfortable, and you will forget they're there. They come with 12 little leather thimble stickers, basically, and you just peel them off of the back pad. And I know on my finger right there, that spot right there is where my muscle memory is, my needle goes for pushing it through. So I will put that right there and keep using it. Now, if I'm stabbing myself down here, if I was starting out and I'm stabbing myself down here, I'm going to move this to wherever that needle eye wants to go, whatever works for me and gives me the most strength. And when I do the tutorial on how to use a thimble, this will become a lot more clear. But I want to give you this option so that you can start using it and become a little more comfortable with it as we move forward on the doll quilt. These are usable up to about 6 or 7 times. I mean, the sticky element on the back remains sticky for about 6 or 7 uses, and I just stick it on my stitching tray or next to me. They're all over the place, actually. These work really well for cross stitch as well. If I'm stitching a full coverage element and I'm using that needle over and over and over again, I find that this really does gives you a little protection against putting a hole in your finger from the eye of the needle. So please ask me questions. Also know that I will be giving you more details on this, but I just wanted to kind of open your eyes a little bit up. Open up your eyes a tiny bit to thimbles and their use, and kind of gently encourage you to accept their necessity. All right, I have one giveaway that is unclaimed. The fall giveaway for Tammy Totten has not been claimed, so if If that does not go to Tammy, next time I'm going to offer it to somebody else. Next time I will also share more with you about Mary, the updates on our stitch stories and tutorials. I will have some stitches in that WIP. I'm going to try really hard to get some of those. I don't think I'll be able to help myself. Once the wool arrives, I'm going to want to dive right in. I'll share more about Workbasket tools. And again, you can contact me through my website or on my email. Please make comments. Please share your first stitches story. Please share your progress on the doll quilt. I love looking at that. I love looking at all the stitching everybody's doing. So, and until then, make time for stitching. Bye, friends.